Hello and welcome to Talk Leadership with Cedrick. You know, everybody needs a little TLC. Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce the audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. Our guiding leadership principle is the law of contribution, which says growing yourself enables you to grow others. So you can't give what you don't have. So first you must grow yourself in order to grow others. We believe outstanding leaders like yourself will help us to help others. So tonight we have another dynamic leader with us. You know, every week I like to do a proper introduction of our guests. So let me introduce you to Miss Angela Hooper-Menifield. Angela Hooper-Menifield is an international facilitator and certified teacher, keynote and motivational speaker, success coach, Maxwell Method of Disc Behavior consultant, and the co-founder of the Black Entrepreneurs Institute. She's also a newly crowned radio talk show talent host with International Business Growth Network, and she's the owner of Menifield and Associates LLC, where the premise of leadership is at every level for every sector is fostered for all. See, after a successful 28-year career in the federal sector, leading and managing, get this, as many as 4,000 employees, Angela is pursuing her passion and purpose in helping others get unstuck and raise their leadership lid. Angela utilizes each of her certification, including her human resources certification, education, and her vast experience as a consultant, speaker, trainer, and success coach to lead executives, business owners, and individuals through a journey of awareness to create and foster high-performing teams by providing customized concierge-level experiences. So Angela has trained internationally in Costa Rica. She's delivered a TED Talk and has spoken in front of and trained thousands of people. Angela serves on the President's Advisory Council with the PAC Club Training Committee on the John Maxwell team. Angela is passionate about equipping leaders and supervisors and has a passion for the public sector. Some of her clients include Chick-fil-A. You've heard of Chick-fil-A, right? The City of New York Department of Labor, Rutgers University, University of Missouri, and a host of other small businesses and nonprofits. Angela and her husband, Charles, are empty nesters. That means they've made the journey now, right? Residing in Newark, New Jersey. Angela and Charles are the proud parents of two daughters, Tiffany and Amber, and even prouder grandparents of three grandsons, DeAndre, is it Michelle?
Mikhail,
and Jameson. So help me welcome Miss Angela Hooper-Menifield to the show.
Wow, thank you, Cedrick. You know, sitting here listening to that, I'm like, I've done a few things in my lifetime, right?
Yeah, we're talking all about you tonight.
Yeah, I'm not used to that.
When you hear it, it's like, wow, that was me.
Yeah, it really is. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be on Talk Leadership with Cedrick, because as you say, everybody needs a little TLC. And
Absolutely.
I have loved watching your show, and I love what you're doing with the platform. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to, those who follow and support you.
Well, thank you for coming on. I definitely appreciate it. And just so you don't, in case you don't know, some people don't know, but some people know, but some people may not know. Angela and I are friends, but we're also business partners, and we're co-founders in the Black Entrepreneurs Institute. So right after this, just move right on over next door in our other studio, Empowered Living Studio, and you'll get to see a little bit more of Angela and Cedrick and Damien and Dr. Nick. So let's get on and talk about Angela here tonight. So Angela, I know I kind of read your background and about your career, but Tell the audience, how did you get started and how did you get to where you are today?
So it's really interesting how I got started. So Cedric, I am born and raised Gary, Indiana. So, first shout out Jackson 5, right? Everybody knows if when you say Gary, Indiana, they think about the Jacksons.
Mm-hmm.
And went to college. I went to college in Mississippi. Predominantly, just full transparency. I had some strict parents. And so leaving the state was my objective in finding a college. And so Mississippi ended up being the compromise because my parents are from Mississippi. Got there, went to college, started out at engineering, hated it. And I do mean hated it. So I was one of those students who picked a major because I was good at something, but I didn't like what I was good at. And so, we can talk about, when we talk about helping people figure out what they want to do, they need to like it as well, right? So
Right.
then I navigated over to business. Was in the School of Business, had accepted a job actually to work for a bank. And lo and behold, the federal government came to campus and they were very specific. It was the Department of Agriculture. And they were looking for minorities. So, diversity and inclusion, right? They looked around and saw that very few people looking like me was in the ranks of management, while probably 70 to 75% of the employees were Black and brown people. So they were making a conscious effort to hire minorities. And so they interviewed me. And I took the interview because there was an opening to work in California. Now, I knew nothing about ag. I could care less about agriculture. It was my way to move to California. So I took the job. I was offered the job, aced my interview, took the job. And along the way, I realized that you can learn to be good at anything if you apply yourself. And so, like a lot of employees, I literally started at the bottom level and I worked myself up. When I left the federal government after 28 and a half years, I was in the highest grades and step that you can be as a civilian. So I am that true example of starting at the bottom and working your way up. And so hence the up to leading up to, 3,500 to 4,000 employees, depending on which year it was. So that's how I got in agriculture. And I grew to love agriculture. I grew to love the industry. And I was really good at what I did.
Wow. So you started off one way and you pivoted another way, right?
Yes.
How many people out there who are listening tonight, you started off one way and then you just said, oh, well, that's not for me. I quit. It's not a. She didn't quit. She just pivoted and readjusted her plan. I mean, you've heard your parents say, if plan A doesn't work, go to plan B, right? Well, that's what she's talking about tonight. This is awesome. All right, let's get into this. All right. So what area of focus are you in the leadership development space?
So for me, the things that I enjoy doing the most are the things that help us with the self-awareness, of course. I'm a firm believer of the messaging that the highest level of leadership is self-leadership. I don't believe you can truly lead or love others if you can't lead and love you. And you can't lead and learn and love what you don't know. So I like the space where I'm helping people grow new awarenesses, understanding themselves. Because I even realized, and it wasn't until I was about 40, that I didn't really understand myself. And I remember the day that the light came on. I was sitting there, Cedric, reading a report, a DISC-esque report. It wasn't DISC, it was a different behavioral assessment. And I'm not making this up, Cedric. Tears started forming in my eyes because
wow.
I said, oh my gosh, this report gets me. And it was like I had been freed in that moment because I often felt misunderstood. And behavioral assessments did so much for me. So that's one space. But the space that I'm most passionate about is new supervisors. I feel like we do a lot of work in that leadership space, collaboration, getting buy-in, vision casting. But I'm a firm believer of the fact that somebody has to count the widgets. Somebody has to take attendance.
Yeah.
Somebody has to do the performance improvement plan. Everybody can't be out here talking about the vision. Otherwise, those things get lost. And what typically happens in most organizations is we find an employee who's really sharp, good at the task, like the top accountant, the top salesman, the top, recruiter, and then we promote them. They have no people skills, no leadership skills, no management skills. They only know how to do the task. And then we're surprised when they
Mhm.
fail. And so for me, it just became really important to work with that space. Those, entry level, new to supervision, shifting from being a peer to leading those you used to work side by side with. And so if I were to say the area that I'm most passionate about is that space there, helping them to understand the difference between being someone's peer and now leading them, being accountable for their work, supervising them. And it is a combination of both supervision slash management and leadership.
So, how to go from an individual contributor to a leader of people successfully.
Yes.
I absolutely love that. So, you hear that, folks out there in the audience, if you are an individual contributor and you want to go to become a person who is leading others, Angela Hooper-Menifield with Menifield and Associates can help you. If you are looking to take your leadership level to the next level, let's say you're new at being a supervisor, she's saying she has the services and products and offerings to help you with that. So, many people in the audience are listening and they come to hear a lot of different things. They come for a lot of different reasons, right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about Menifield and Associates, where you're located, and we'll talk about how people can get connected with you a little bit later. But where you're located and what's that overall branding message for?
So our overall branding is twofold. One is leadership at every level for every sector, right? Oftentimes, it's been my experience in doing leadership development that people will tell me, I'm not a leader, because they're thinking positional leadership. And
Mm-hmm.
so at Minifield and Associates, what we want to help impart upon people is the fact that we lead at all levels. And it doesn't matter your sector, right? Public sector, private, nonprofit. We are in the business of helping people, again, understand that leadership is influence and we all have it, regardless of our position, our status, our title, or what industry or sector we work in. So that's number one. And then the second is building and equipping supervisors and teams. BEST, right? We're the best.
Oh,
Building
wow. Okay.
and equipping supervisors and teams. And so creating content that takes supervisors on that journey, and not only from supervision, but also into management, right? Because at first you got to just get comfortable leading a project.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to lead the people. Then you got to start approving time and attendance and a leave request and writing up letters of discipline. And from there, you got to start overseeing budget, right? So it's a continuum.
Right.
And so we want to help you go on that journey. So how we do that is by building and equipping your supervisors and your teams. We're physically located in Newark, New Jersey. We've been there for 3 years now. Before that, I know you mentioned University of Missouri. We lived in Missouri. I did for about 3 years. So one of the great things about the kind of work that we do is, we have clients all over the United States. And so we're able to service them. But typically, wherever I'm located, I'm always looking to help and work with my local governments. The public sector is my sweet spot. 28 and a half years in the federal government. And I know a lot of the pain points that public sector employees have.
Well, that is awesome. I like that. Leadership at every level in every sector. So whether you are public, private, nonprofit, leadership at every level. And I love this best, building and equipping supervisors and teams. Now,
Yes.
if you can't rally around that in your organization, then something's wrong, folks. Something's wrong. So, I mean, I'm just saying, right? So Rocky is on, and he said, Angela sent me my first Maxwell Go Getter planner.
Hey,
Um,
Rocky.
so, adding value, I guess, all across the country. I see. um, Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I try, right? I like people. I want to see people succeed. And I just felt through my years that a lot of people felt unheard. And so when we can listen to people, and there's a saying that goes, people can't hear you unless they've been heard. So how can I hear, what's happening? How can I help people? So often, like I said, being a supervisor is not easy.
Yeah.
Leading people, dealing with their problems. Some days you feel like you mama, you counselor, you therapist, you're all things, and your team can be in different places on the same day, emotionally and psychologically, and yet you still have to figure out how to get the work done too. And it's a lot. And so by trying to help people figure out how to do that, I think it equips us all, because what we want to do is, how many times have you been at a place of business and had bad service? You're like, where's the supervisor, right? That's what everybody says. Where's the
Right.
supervisor? And they're usually apologetic, but they don't know what to do. They feel like they have no control. They don't have the authority to make decisions, to sometimes get rid of the bad employees. And so sometimes it's even helping people with that, right?
Right.
Helping them understand, like, how do you document? How do you give your HR department or your leadership substantive information to make decisions, whether that's for, again, a performance improvement plan, termination, training, having the right recipe for the right, issue. Because oftentimes we over discipline, or the discipline doesn't is not in alignment with what the indiscretion was. So we
Sure.
make bad decisions, and then we end up in court.
Right. Absolutely right about that. There was a young lady that contacted me today, and she was going through trying to make a hiring decision. But here's one of the things she said: "Man, management is hard." And she said, I need to get aligned with you." So you said that just a few minutes ago, right? Everybody, they want to be in charge. They want to be in charge of people and stuff and processes, but they have no idea what it takes. Then once you're there, right?
Oh, definitely. It's kind of like how everybody has parenting advice before they have kids,
Yeah.
right? They were like, they need to whoop that kid, or they need to go tell that little girl to sit down, and then they get kids, and you just sit there and say, where's all that sage advice now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I always tell them, look, I don't mind kids crying, but I don't like your kid crying. I'm all right if my kids cry. See, that's what happens. It just happens. I mean, that's what everybody, oh, it's a cute baby, until they crying and making noise. You're like, oh my God. But then your baby, oh, look how cute. And yeah, no, it's not cute.
Yep, exactly. And everybody thinks they know more than their supervisor. It never fails. They think they know more, and then they become the supervisor, and then they realize maybe this wasn't as easy as I thought it was.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So, there are a lot of businesses that were impacted with this coronavirus, right?
Mhm.
So, how was your business impacted during this crisis? And if it was, how did you overcome that?
So in the very beginning, like most people, I had events canceled. I do a lot of training, a lot of in-person training. I actually had made a commitment to do. New Jersey has the Garden State Employment and let's see, Garden State Employment and Training Academy or Association. So I had just made this commitment to do training with them, and so things were moving along, and then it happened, right? It's like everything shut down. And so the first thing I tried to do was just be available, because one of the other things that I know very well is up until March, many organizations had justified to the core, to the bone, why their team could not work virtually. And then coronavirus hit, and the same people they had told last year that they couldn't work from home, they mandated that they work from home.
Yes.
So to say that a lot of these supervisors were now in flux would be an understatement. So what I just tried to do was avail myself and help them navigate the conversation, navigate new expectations. How do we behave on Zoom? What is the expectation for employees that are working from home? Accountability, responsiveness, and things like that, because most of these organizations had nothing. And so what I found was, by being gracious and just offering what I knew, it turns into work. Because now people were like, hey, would you come do this training for us? Our team needs help in navigating a virtual workspace. And so by being available, offering the knowledge that I already had, because again, I've been virtual with many of my clients for years because of the relocating and having clients in different states. Working in a virtual work setting was not foreign to me. And so I leveraged that. And then once we did some of those things, I went back to the same services that I had been doing, because then they were able to see, oh, we can still do all the training, our disc workshops, our, masterminds, all these other things virtually. And so things came back to some normalcy, as far as normalcy in frequency, not normalcy in the delivery.
Sure, sure. Well, that's awesome. Helping people understand how this new world is it's different, but it's the same. I mean, it's different in that maybe we're not meeting in person, we're meeting virtually, but it's the same in that professionalism is required in a virtual environment just as well as if you're in person.
Yes. I had a conversation with some managers, and we were laughing because, Cedrick, the same people that used to be late for the in-person meeting, they're the same people that's late for the Zoom meeting, right? Because
So they had traffic jam walking upstairs,
exactly. So, but it's funny, but it's not funny in the sense that people are who they are. And I think as supervisors, that's why when we coach people up and try to help them, you know, bring them to a level of parity, right, of sustained performance, we have to talk about what the real issue is. The real issue was never the traffic. When employee X was late, when we were physically driving to work, their issue was their ability to either start early enough, prioritize, not be a procrastinator and things like that. And so how you do anything is how you do everything. So you're late to the in-person meeting, you're late to the Zoom meeting. It is. It's actually comical.
Right. Yeah. They're probably late to the family reunion. They're probably late to the picnic. They're late to church. Yes. Yeah. So, you're always like happy and motivated and smiling and da da da. I'm a D, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm happy right now, but yeah. All right. So enough. Okay. So talk to that person out there who finds it hard every day to stay motivated and inspired. What's the best way you found to keep yourself motivated and engaged during those difficult times?
For me, it started with the realization that I cannot control anything but Angela. And the three parts of me that I can control is how I feel, what I think, and what I do, right? And so I get a choice. And in this moment right here, and I tell people in training all the time, like a coworker could literally walk up to me and knock me upside my head. Now it doesn't make their behavior correct, and we're going to fill out the applicable papers and call the police and do all that. But I get to choose how I respond to that behavior. I get to respond to respond about how I feel about it and what I think about it. So some of us, when bad things happen or things happen that are not in line with what we wish, we decide it's about us. People don't like me. They don't want me. We personalize it. Or we could just say, the Bible says unforeseen, occurrences befall us all, right? So how about it was just an unforeseen occurrence and something that happened? Or how do you feel? I'm angry, but I choose to be angry. I allow myself to be angry. And I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but what I am saying is awareness that I control it. I know I feel better when I'm optimistic, when I can find good, when I can try to empathize and see other people's perspective. And so that's the way I operate, because I would rather feel good than sulk and be sullen and upset about things. And again, things I can't control. And if I don't like it, guess what? I go change it, do what I
Mhm.
can. So that D in me shows up sometimes too, right? It's like, hey, if you don't like it, do something about it.
Right.
And I don't take no very easily. So it's like somebody can tell me no. I may not even respond instantly, but I'm thinking the whole time, Cedric, like, how do I get this no to a yes?
Yeah.
My daddy used to always say that little one, even when I was little, like, she doesn't take no. And I've always been that person. And so I just think, yeah, we get a choice, we get a choice. And I would rather be happy than not be happy. So I choose to be happy.
Well, that is awesome. One of the things that I do to keep myself going every day is and you know this, when anyone asks me how am I doing, my response 100% of the time, no matter if I just had an argument with my wife, if I just had something go wrong, if I had whatever, I always say I'm always great.
That's right, you do.
Yeah, because it's about telling myself that regardless of what else is happening, everything is great. As long as I'm not cold 6 feet under dirt on top of me, it's all great.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. So it's all about perspective. So I like that. Thanks for sharing that with our audience. So what would you say to someone that's thinking right now, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business. My company is furloughing me and then they're going to eliminate my job. My company is doing this to me. They don't like me. Whatever. They're thinking about, trying to get outside of that trap,
Hmm.
but they're scared to get started. What would you tell them?
So, the first thing I would say is fear is not evidence of your inability to do so. It's just evidence of the fact that you haven't done it yet. Number one. So, know that it's okay to be afraid, right? We are all afraid at times, but what really grows us and helps us to push through is the continuation of pushing through. So, the first thing I would do is to ask that person to think back on a time in their life that they had something that was really challenging that they overcame. Because I think sometimes we forget we've been through some things already, right? Like we got muscles that we built, muscles of persistence, muscles of endurance, muscles of fortitude and fight. So tap back into that because that's not gone. All of that is still in you. But then also ask yourself, why do you really want to be an entrepreneur? Because I'll also say that
Mhm.
being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart, because there's so many people that says I want my own business. It's kind of like we were saying earlier, people saying I want to supervise. Then they get the job and they're like, can I go back to a non-supervisory job? Right? So ask yourself, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? What is the value you're going to bring? Because, going back to that, being a technician, I'm that accountant. I work for, Ernst and Young. I want to be an entrepreneur. Is it just to still do accounting work, but not to punch a clock? Because that's really not what entrepreneurship is. So I think just having an understanding of what it really means to be an entrepreneur, and then once they set their heart on that and get clear about it, then I say
Mhm.
go for it. None of us are perfect. None of us will get everything right, but you'll never get it right if you don't try.
Hey, well, wait a minute. Don't tell a D that we're not perfect now. Be careful with that.
All right, Cedric. Now you know I'm married to a D, so I know. You're like, well, I'm not right now, but in 12 hours, that dead clock is gonna be right or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Right?
You just don't understand right now. That's all.
Exactly. And most of us have had our greatest learns from things we tried that didn't go exactly as we wanted it to. But when we slowed down and thought through it, that applied knowledge and that reflected uh, understanding of, like, once we went back and reflected over what we did. I mean, there's a reason why there's a saying that says hindsight is 2020,
Hmm.
right? It's
Right.
like you got to do some things to be able to see back over some things. Otherwise, you'll never have 2020 because you can't see around the corners.
Sure.
You ha-
Absolutely.
So you have some faith, believe in yourself, and know that, it'll come and you'll work through it. And there are people like, if you're, if you really want to be an entrepreneur and you want to find out, you could always go to the Black Entrepreneurs Institute boot camp. I'm just
Absolutely.
saying.
And when does that start?
Oh, I believe it starts next week, Cedrick.
Okay. All right. So they can find out about it. Just, send an email to beifounders.gmail.com, right?
Exactly. At gmail.com, BEI Founders. That's right. And we can help you with that, because there's a lot of joy, I think, in being an entrepreneur. And I can just even say right now in my life, I'm highly grateful for the life that I've designed and built for me, because I shared with you earlier, in the last 7 weeks, I've only slept in my own bed for 4 nights because of family stuff, right? And when you work for yourself, you have a little bit more flexibility on those types of things. Otherwise, if I was working for someone else, I don't know if I would have been able to be here for my family like I have been, because I'm an entrepreneur.
Right. Yeah. Well, 7 nights and how many? How long again? You said?
I said 4 nights and 7 weeks.
That reminds me when I was still in corporate, man. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So we're gonna step aside for a little second here. So, would you rather pick the year that you died or the way that you died?
That's a good one. I think I would rather pick the way.
The way. Nobody is trying to hear the year.
Well, there's something about us as humans. Number one, we procrastinate, right? Like a little bit, and so it's like, oh, when it gets close, then we want to try to do everything, or we would, probably get depressed and not live life to the fullest.
Right.
So I would rather not know when and continue to live life as I'm living it, but knowing the how. So, I can prepare accordingly, I guess.
Yeah. Well, let's say you find out you're gonna get in a wreck, and that's how you're gonna die. Then all of a sudden you're like, I'm never leaving the house.
Yeah, but the funny thing about it is, if that would really be the way, I would be the story on the news when they was like, and then the car drove into the house, right?
Would you rather be able to read minds or be able to travel at the light of speed? I think Angela is froze a little bit, so we're gonna keep going. So we're talking with Angela Hooper-Menifield. So are you there?
Yeah, look, Cedrick, you've been working with me now for a few weeks. Cedrick knows that I am in Indiana at my parents' house. I love my parents, but they have poor internet. But we gonna help them out.
Yes, absolutely. So would you rather to be able to read minds or to be able to travel at light speed?
I think read minds.
All right. So you want to know what people are thinking. So would you rather be a ninja or a pirate?
A ninja.
They can beat up people. You're gonna read their mind, and when they're thinking about you, you're gonna beat them up. Okay, I got you. I got you. All right. So would you rather have free Apple products forever or have free Wi-Fi wherever you go?
You ask the woman with struggling Wi-Fi if she wants to have free Wi-Fi forever. No, I would take the Apple products.
Yes, me too. One last one. All right. Would you rather live the life of fame and wealth or live in Harry Potter's world?
Oh, fame and wealth. I don't know nothing about Harry Potter. I never even read a book.
Yeah, I don't either. So we'll just pass that one up.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about Harry.
It's all right. Sorry, we hope we didn't offend you. Hey, so we're talking entrepreneurs. We're going to talk about women entrepreneurs, but then we kind of joked a little bit about BEI. I want to talk about that. So give our audience 1 or 2 things that women entrepreneurs should be doing to positively impact their business.
So one of the things that I would say that women entrepreneurs should be doing is owning their space. So often, and even just recently, we saw the DNI program that the Empowered Living community is offered, and it's titled A Seat at the Table. And I think women and other minorities have often waited for people to invite them or give them a seat. And so while I'm not suggesting that we, bogart ourselves in and demand a seat, I think just realizing and understanding you belong in the room and carrying that as your posture and your energy. And then the other thing is learning how to negotiate and set pricing. Studies tell us that women inherently undervalue themselves, not that all people don't do it at some point in time or both genders, but women are notorious for it. I read a study one time, Cedrick, and of course, again, I do a lot of work in the HR space. So hiring, preparing people for interviews. And the study said that if a woman saw a job vacancy and it listed maybe 5 elements that the qualifications, if a woman had 2 of the 5, she would say, oh, I only have 2, I won't apply. A man could see the same vacancy announcement and have 2 of the qualifications, and he'll say, oh, well, I can do 2 of these, so let me throw my name in the hat.
Yeah,
right? It's just exactly.
Yeah.
And so as women, we have to adopt a posture and an awareness that we belong, we're qualified. We don't have to be perfect and meet every qualification or, ask for the price, whatever that is for your services, value yourself. And like I said, inherently women struggle with salary negotiations and things like that too.
Yes. So, I did minority recruiting for Abbott, and was at his conference, and I was interviewing this lady, very, very talented. I mean, her resume was just like really, really good. Then during the interview, she was really exceptional, but she was applying for a sales rep position. Now, sales reps, with their bonuses, can make a whole lot of money, can sometimes make more than their manager because of a compensation plan. However, I thought she was undervaluing herself. So I stopped the interview, and here's what I said. I said, look, you are overqualified for this position. Why are you? We have director level positions on this requisite. Why are you not applying for those and interviewing for those? This is what she told me. She says, well, because I want to get my feet in the door. And I said, no. You've earned the right to ask for this position. So I stopped the interview from this sales position and started talking about a director level position. And then I put her in contact with the people that were hiring for this director level position. And after I forgot about it, about 6 months later, she called me and she said, hey, this is Pam. Just want you to know I just got hired as a director at Abbott Corporate. You see?
Awesome.
Yeah. And you're right. A lot of times women undervalue themselves. They underappreciate what they bring to the table. So
pricing wise, as entrepreneurs, it's the same thing. We'll turn in a bid or a quote for a job and underbid. And oftentimes what I don't think we've told ourselves, just like you said, to get the foot in the door, that we should do this to get our foot in the door. Because there's that preconceived thinking that I need to slide under and get in the room first, and then maybe they won't notice I'm there, kind of thing, and then I'll be more welcome. Whereas, men just knock on the door, be like, hey, let me in. I'm out here.
Exactly.
And so it's just a different aura, but I think it starts even with our girls, right? Because this is a learned behavior. Sure. This isn't something that we just woke up at 40 and said, I don't know how I feel about applying for this job. It's been years of this programming. And so the work that, that you do in the schools, which I love, Dr. Nicole, some of this work can speak to some of that, but I think we can start preparing young women a lot sooner to feel confident about who they are and what the value that they bring.
Sure. Yeah. So let's talk about minority candidates. What role does diversity and inclusion play to the bottom line?
Oh my gosh, it can make or break it. companies that are more diverse and inclusive, they get the better employees. So often when we talk about diversity and inclusion, people, number one, only assume race. And so I find it, I like to remind people there's more than one type of diversity. There's the visible and the invisible, right? So the visible is the fact that I'm a woman and I'm a person of color. It may be, my height, my size, all of those things make me different, maybe than someone else. But the invisible, how I think, my values, my opinions, could be religion, there are invisible things, we think of, so we get caught up in the visible first. But when
Sure.
you bring people into a conversation or into your thinking, your creativity, your branding, how you serve your clients from all diverse types of environments, you better serve everybody because people feel welcome. And when we talk about inclusivity, oftentimes people will hire diverse individuals, but they don't feel welcomed. And then they wonder why they don't stay. So people need the freeness to be who they are. Like, I remember when natural hair really first became the thing, there were places, and of course, we just saw that the act was passed, what was that, in California,
Mhm.
that,
Right.
it's okay, you can't discriminate about hair. Why is that still taking place?
Right.
Because companies were saying, we'll hire you, Black person, but don't wear that kinky, coily hair to the workplace. Well, then that's not being inclusive, because if this is the way the hair comes out of my scalp, why can't I show up this way and it not be viewed as professional? And so inclusiveness is what keeps people at your company. And if you hire me and I stay, then guess what? You have reduced turnover, you have longevity, you have institutional knowledge, you get all of me, all of my excitement, my ideas, my creativity. It is so much when it comes to employment. And the saying is true that people don't quit jobs, they quit leaders. And so if leaders can't figure out how to, embrace our diversity, and we're all different, as well as help us feel included, they're going to see it on the bottom line all day, every day.
Yeah. So really, a lot of stuff you talked about is both conscious and unconscious bias, right?
Hmm.
So what's some of the best ways for employers to find diverse candidates?
Well, one of the things I would say is widen your search, right? So if you find, and I used to do recruitment, and I noticed that we were always recruiting at the same 5 colleges, and on average, they had about 8% minorities. So did you really think you'd get the diversity? Right? So you
Right.
have to go where the diverse people are. What are the organizations? What are the associations that they're members of? So if I'm looking for an engineer, maybe I also reach out to the Society of Black Engineers or the Society of Hispanic Engineers, and send my job announcement and see if they have any candidates that are interested. When we talk about being diverse, we're not talking about giving unqualified people a job. We're saying have an applicant pool of diverse candidates who are all qualified. You vet them, and then you hire the one that's best for the position. So you got to widen your search. You have to be cognizant that it's real easy for us to be comfortable with people who look like us because there's familiarity there, right?
Mhm.
It's just like if I walk in a restaurant and I see another Black person, I tend to just throw my head up or something, right? We speak, we see each other. We're like, hey, I see you. That's a comfort, but it goes also in the interview. Are we more congenial with the person that looks like us and build rapport a little
Mhm.
easier versus the person who doesn't? Stuff like that. So just being aware of what's happening within us and making sure that all the candidates at least just get a fair opportunity and access to apply.
Yes, absolutely. So where can people get a hold of you and Menifield and Associates?
So you can find me at www.minifieldanassociates.com, or you can use Supervisor Academy. It'll take you to the same place. Um, So if that's my website, you can also email me at angela@menifieldanassociates.com. I'm on Facebook. I have a business page. You can follow me there on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I do HR moments on my Facebook page where I just take about 10 minutes and talk about HR tips, answer questions, and try to help people in the space of growing as supervisors and leaders in their organization.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know that I normally like this longer, but we have to go next door. So we need everybody to join us next door at the
Yes.
Empowered Living, on the Empowered Living channel. So what are we going to be talking about tonight, Angela?
Tonight, we're talking about branding, minding your brand, the importance of having a brand. Would love to have you come and join us. I am so excited. It's always a great show on the Empowered Living Community Network. And so join us.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it.
Did.
And we're going to continue the conversation next door. Hey, folks, let me make a couple announcements before we get out of here. So at 6:30 p.m. Central, just in a few minutes here, Black Entrepreneurs Institute will be live on the Empowered Living Network, where we have 1.9 million subscribers. Come join us. You're going to love what we are talking about tonight. And with the Black Entrepreneurs Institute, we want to help you elevate your mind and your money. Now, once that show is over at 7:30, come on back over here to Facebook and tune into Talk with TK. And she's going to be talking with the Mindset 180 Academy about mindset shifting, right? Thursday is excitement for me. I start my Talk Leadership with Cedrick on the radio. And this is with the IBGR network. So it will be posted on my Facebook page how you can tune in on Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 Eastern Time. Always remember, if you're not at the table, you are on the menu. Don't be on the menu. Thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we will see you next week. Everybody needs a little TLC.